And joining us now to discuss Palm Beach County, Florida State Attorney David Aronberg, who was at the news conference yesterday, of course, locally. So again, you were there, David. What did you observe? What did you hear? Anything that you heard that was said that made you think twice? What stood out?
Trina, it's good to be back with you. So what I originally was going to do was going to file state charges here. We wanted to make sure this guy doesn't leave jail. We didn't want him to be able to escape incarceration pending trial. We were going to seek a motion for pretrial detention. And then the feds stepped in, and when they stepped in and took over the case, then we stood down. And so now this is entirely a federal matter. As far as what was unusual about it, you know, I think that the property itself, the golf club, is such a large property that it really is tough for Secret Service to guard it as people would expect. You need a lot more Secret Service agents. This is not Mar-a-Lago. This is 10 to 15 minutes away from Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is bordered by on one side by water. You got to go over a bridge. This is in West Palm Beach with two major roads alongside it and huge bushes there that hide the fence, and so someone can hide out there. And I just think that it was a really great act of heroism by the Secret Service here to find this guy with a AK-47 style rifle poking through a fence and being able to shoot at him before he did any damage.
Well, luckily he didn't, and I think Dave, the argument people have is how did he get to the fence? That's what people are upset about, and where we go moving forward, which I'm sure the investigation will show, and they'll try and have to make some kind of adjustment here. Talk about the charges that Ruth is facing now. 2 federal gun charges. People are wondering maybe why it's not something else, something more. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. I do think that it's probable that there's going to be more charges. These are the low-hanging fruit. You know, prosecutors at the federal level want to keep this guy behind bars, and he's not going anywhere. So they filed what I think are the easiest charges against him, which are still serious. These gun charges are up to 10 years in prison for each of them. And when you're dealing with an ex-felon in possession of a gun, that's it. You don't have to worry about intent. It's just, did he have a gun? Yes. That could be up to 10 years in prison. How about the other one where he smudged out the serial number? That's a crime too, up to 10 years in prison. So this is enough to keep him incarcerated for a while they develop other potential charges, perhaps aggravated assault with a firearm against a law enforcement officer. That could get you up to 20 years in prison. So I don't think it's over yet.
Interesting point there. I want to ask you this, Dave. We know that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has said, hey, you know what? The state of Florida is going to be conducting their own investigation into the assassination attempt, clearly raising some doubt on the ability of the federal government to actually do it and come up with real answers. Have you been in touch with him about that? What do you know?
No, he hasn't called me or my office about it. When the feds came in and said they were going to take jurisdiction, we stood down. That's the normal process. Now, if the governor wants to spend taxpayer money to duplicate the investigation, he can. He has the right to do so through the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. But keep in mind, it's not so easy because the evidence is in the possession of the feds, and they're not going to turn over the evidence until this case is over. And as far as the victim here, which would be the Secret Service agent, if you want to charge aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, that's a federal official. So, you know, if you don't trust the feds, you may not want to talk to the victim, who is a federal law enforcement official. So I think it's to me distressing when you have such distrust here, that the governor distrusts the federal government so much that they're going to do a separate investigation that I think is just duplicative without even knowing what the feds are coming up with. So I don't think it's necessary at this point.
All right, we're going to see where that goes. David Aronberg, always great to have you with us. Thanks for the update.
Thanks for having me.